We're in the North Cascades, Washington State. And if you've never been to that part of the Pacific Northwest, you have to picture a landscape that is just, it's almost aggressively beautiful.
It's not just pretty, it's wild. Temperate rainforest, sheer cliffs, and terrain that feels ancient.
Yeah, prehistoric. It's the kind of place people go to get lost on purpose, to find some quiet. But on March 18th, 2000, off a logging route called Canyon Creek Road, that whole idea of getting lost became something much, much darker.
And Canyon Creek Road isn't a main highway, it's a side route off the Mount Baker Highway. It's rugged. You don't end up there by accident.
Exactly. And at the bottom of this really steep embankment, almost swallowed by the forest, they found a white 1993 Jeep Cherokee, and it was just completely mangled.
It had clearly rolled multiple times.
Oh, yeah. Belongings were scattered everywhere, CDs, clothes, papers. It was a total debris field. It looked like something had just exploded inside the vehicle as it went down.
So when the first responders finally made their way down that slope, they were expecting the worst. A crash that violent, you're prepared to find a body.
Or at least someone critically injured. But that's where this whole mystery really begins. Because when they got to the Jeep, there was no one.
And not just no one, as in the driver walked away. The physical proof of a driver ever being in the crash was missing.
Right. There was no blood on the dashboard or the steering wheel. No hair caught in the shattered windshield. The seat belts, they hadn't been stretched by the force of a body slamming into them.
Which is what you would absolutely expect to see. It's basic physics.
It was this violent high-speed crash, but the car was empty. It was a ghost wreck.
That's the first huge red flag, the complete absence of any biological evidence inside. But the second one, and this one took years to find, is what turns this from a strange accident into a probable crime scene.
Yeah, years later, when cold case detectives finally popped the hood on that Jeep for a review, they found a very specific, very deliberate mechanical tamper.
Someone had been inside that engine. They had rigged it.
They rigged it to drive itself off that cliff, and that just changes the entire story. We're not looking at a tragic accident anymore. We're looking at a staged event, a piece of theater left deep in the woods.
A puzzle.
Today, we're examining the disappearance of Leah Roberts. She was 23 years old, from Durham, North Carolina. She set off on this classic American journal, a road trip to find herself, driving 3,000 miles, only to vanish completely in the Pacific Northwest.
And this case is such a labyrinth. It's this perfect storm of, on one hand, a deep psychological profile of a young woman dealing with incredible grief, and on the other hand, just cold, hard forensic mechanics.
We have a timeline we can piece together from bank records, a few seconds of grainy security footage, and a vehicle that tells two completely different stories.
The story of the crash and the story of what was done to it beforehand.
So our focus today is to analyze that timeline. We're going to dig into her biography to understand her mindset, trace her cross-country journey, and then really get into the technical forensic details of that crash scene.
The central question is just, it's haunting. How does a young woman drive across an entire continent, leave behind thousands of dollars in cash, her passport, jewelry, and then just cease to exist?
To understand the end of her journey, we really have to go back to the beginning. We have to understand why she even got in that car.
This wasn't a spring break trip. This was a reaction to her entire world collapsing around her.
Let's go back to Durham, North Carolina. Leah Roberts was born in July of 1976. By all accounts, she was a bright kid, very curious. She was the youngest of three, with an older sister, Cara, and a brother, Heath. She ends up at North Carolina State University in Raleigh.
And she's a double major in Spanish and anthropology.
Which feels significant.
It's very telling. Spanish and anthropology. She's interested in people and other cultures and how we communicate. She's not studying business or engineering. She's trying to understand the human experience.
But while she's studying the human experience in a classroom, her own life is just. It's dismantled by one tragedy after another. It's not one single event. It's a cluster of traumas that hit her between the ages of 17 and 23.
From a psychological standpoint, this is what's known as cumulative stress. It starts in 1993. She's just 17, and her father is diagnosed with a chronic lung illness.
And anyone who's been through that knows it just creates this constant low-level hum of anxiety in a family. It's a crisis that unfolds in slow motion.
Exactly. And then, while that's the backdrop, the first real hammer falls. As her sophomore year of college, her mother dies, suddenly, from heart disease.
That's devastating for anyone in their early 20s. But for Leah, it was compounded.
Right, because her father is already sick. So the family's primary caregiver is suddenly gone, and the vulnerable parent is left behind. Leah is forced to grow up almost overnight. She's navigating her own grief while also potentially becoming a caregiver herself.
And the trauma becomes physical. In the fall of 1998, Leah is in a car accident, a really, really bad one.
She almost didn't survive it. She had a punctured lung and a shattered femur.
I want to pause on that femur injury because it becomes forensically critical later on.
It's hugely significant. The femur is the strongest bone in the human body. To shatter it like that requires an incredible amount of force. And to repair it, surgeons had to implant a metal rod right alongside the bone to stabilize it.
And that metal rod is a permanent marker.
It is. It's inorganic. It doesn't decompose. In a search scenario, that rod would make her body detectable by a metal detector in a way that just bone would not. It physically tagged her.
So she recovers from this horrific wreck. And interestingly, she tells her sister Kara that the experience made her feel born again. It's like this near-death experience gave her a new perspective on everything.
Search for a deeper meaning, perhaps? But the universe wasn't finished. In the spring of 1999, just 3 weeks before she was set to leave for a field program in Costa Rica, her father dies from his illness.
So now she's 22. She has lost both of her parents and nearly lost her own life, all in the span of about 4 years.
Just an unimaginable amount of loss. And look at her reaction right after her father's death. She doesn't cancel the trip. She goes to Costa Rica. She pushes forward.
And before she leaves, she does something very practical, very mature for her age. She grants her sister, Kara, power of attorney over her bank accounts.
Which shows she was thinking ahead. She had no parents left to act as a safety net, so she created one with her sister. That single act, that power of attorney, is the only reason investigators were ever able to trace her movements. Without it, her financial trail would have been a black box.
But when she comes back from Costa Rica, something has shifted. The responsible, good student persona, it starts to crumble. She's only months away from graduating from NC State, right at the finish line, and she drops out.
Her siblings were, understandably, very against this. They just wanted her to finish her degree. But this is where you can see that search for meaning really taking over. It's a classic existential crisis.
She starts learning guitar, gets into photography. She adopts a little kitten who she names Bee. She's spending her time in local coffee houses, writing poetry about the meaning of life.
She's trying to build a new identity for herself. The old ones, daughter, student, they don't fit anymore. And that's when she gets really fixated on the Beat generation.
Specifically, Jack Kerouac.
On the Road. It's basically the foundational text for young people looking for freedom and escape. Kerouac's writing is all about shedding your obligations, heading west, and finding some kind of enlightenment through motion.
And she starts talking about it. She tells her friends, Janine Quiller and her roommate Nicole Bennett, that she wants to do that. A road trip out west. To see the mountains, to live that Kerouac fantasy.
So the idea, the dream of the trip, had been building for a while.
But the actual departure, that was incredibly sudden.
That's the key distinction. The dream was long-standing, but the act of leaving was abrupt.
Okay, let's get to March of 2000. This is the timeline of her leaving, and we can pin it down pretty tightly.
We start on March 9th, a Thursday. In the morning, Leah has a phone call with her sister, Kara. They talk about her future plans, but it's all very vague, I'm not sure what I'm doing next, that kind of conversation. They end the call with a simple, "I'll see you soon." It wasn't a goodbye.
No sense of finality at all. And then that same afternoon, she makes plans with her roommate, Nicole. They agree to go babysit together the next day.
Which is a solid commitment. You don't agree to babysit for a friend if you're secretly planning to be halfway to Tennessee in less than 24 hours.
Right. So Nicole leaves for work. When she gets back home that night, Leah's gone. And her white Jeep Cherokee is gone from the driveway.
But initially, Nicole doesn't panic. Since dropping out of school, Leah's schedule had been pretty erratic. She kept odd hours, so an empty house wasn't an immediate cause for alarm.
The alarm bell really starts ringing the next day, March 10th, when she doesn't show up for the babysitting job.
That was completely out of character. Leah might have been a bit adrift, but she was considerate. She wouldn't just blow off a friend like that.
So friends start calling. By March 11th, she's still gone. No one has seen or heard from her. Finally, on March 13th, Kara goes to the Durham Police Department and files a missing persons report.
But by the time that official report is filed in North Carolina, Leah is already thousands of miles away on the other side of the country.
Before we follow her on the road, though, we have to talk about what she left behind. Kara and Nicole search her room on March 14th.
And it was clear she had packed for a trip. A lot of her clothes were gone. and her kitten, Bea, was gone too. So this tells us she didn't just step out for a minute and get abducted. She loaded up her car.
And she left a note. And she left cash.
The cash is so important. She left a bundle of money, roughly what she would owe for her share of the next month's rent and bills.
I mean, think about that. Leaving money for your roommate is the exact opposite of someone who's in a desperate suicidal flight. It's a considerate, practical act. It suggests she was trying to soften the blow of her absence.
Exactly. She was buying time, ensuring her roommate wasn't left in a bad spot. And the note confirms that mindset. It started with the line, "I'm not suicidal, I'm the opposite."
I'm the opposite. That is such a powerful, if cryptic, phrase.
It implies that for her, this trip was an act of life, an act of survival. Maybe staying in Durham, surrounded by all that loss, felt like kind of death. So leaving was her way of choosing life.
She also drew a picture of the Cheshire Cat's grin from Alice in Wonderland. You know, the character that famously vanishes and reappears. And of course, she mentioned Kerouac again.
So the intent she leaves behind is clear. This is an adventure. I am choosing life. I'm following in the footsteps of my hero. The mindset at the moment she left seems almost manic, maybe, but certainly optimistic.
So she hits the road. And because Kara has that power of attorney, investigators are eventually able to pull her bank records and find the trail.
The first breadcrumb appears on the afternoon of March 9th. She withdraws several $1,000s in cash. That's her road money. And for the most part, she uses that cash, staying off the grid. But she does use her debit card occasionally for gas and motels.
The first electronic ping is from a motel near Memphis, Tennessee. From there, the transactions show her heading west, right along Interstate 40.
And I-40, for anyone who's driven it, is a major artery. It just cuts straight across the country, through Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, all the way to California. It's a long, hypnotic drive to do by yourself.
When she reaches California, she makes a turn, heads north on Interstate 5. And this is where we get the only actual visual confirmation of her entire 3,000-mile journey.
Brooks, Oregon. It's the early morning of March 13th, 2000. A surveillance camera at a gas station captures her image.
So what do we see in that footage? This is the last time anyone can definitively say that is Leah Roberts.
We see her. She's alone. There's no one in the car with her, no one standing by the pump. She looks physically fine, not in distress, not injured. She's just a young woman filling up her Jeep.
But there was a small behavioral detail noted in the case file, wasn't there? Something about the way she was acting.
Yes. While she's waiting for the tank to fill or for the transaction to process, she looks out into the dark parking lot a few times. She seems very alert, scanning her surroundings.
Now, what do you make of that?
We have to be careful not to overinterpret it. I mean, she has her kitten in the car. Maybe she's just checking on her. Or maybe she's just a woman alone at a gas station in the middle of the night being cautious. Or maybe she felt like she was being followed. We just don't know. But she's definitely aware of her environment.
So early morning, March 13th, she's in Oregon. She continues north, and that brings her to Bellingham, Washington. Why Bellingham?
Bellingham is pretty much the end of the road. It's about as far northwest as you can drive in the continental U.S. Before you either hit the Canadian border or the Pacific Ocean. She arrives there on the afternoon of the 13th.
And we know she was there because of a piece of evidence found in her wrecked car later, a ticket stub.
Right, a movie ticket. She went to the Bells Fair Mall and bought a ticket for an afternoon showing of the movie American Beauty.
Which is such a normal, mundane thing to do. You drive 3,000 miles on a soul-searching quest, and you end up at a suburban shopping mall watching a movie.
But think about that movie's themes. American Beauty is entirely about the suffocating facade of suburban life and the desperate search for freedom and meaning. It actually fits her psychological state perfectly. But more than that, it gives us a hard data point. She was alive, well, and functioning in Bellingham on the afternoon of March 13th.
After the movie, the trail gets a little blurry. Police focus their investigation on the mall's only sit-down restaurant, figuring she might have gone there for a meal.
And this is where the eyewitness accounts come in, and where they start to complicate things. They found two men who had been sitting at the restaurant's counter, and they both remembered a young woman who matched Leah's description sitting between them. They even struck up a conversation with her.
And what did they talk about?
They talked about Jack Kerouac. They talked about her road trip. She was telling these strangers all about her adventure, which, again, fits her personality to a T. She was known for striking up philosophical conversations in coffee shops. So the sighting feels very credible.
But then one of those men at the counter introduces a huge new element to the case.
He does. He told police that when Leah left the restaurant, she didn't leave by herself. He claimed she left with a third man. He even provided a name. He said Leah called this man Barry.
Barry, the mystery man. This was taken seriously enough that police worked with the witness to create a composite sketch.
They did. But here's a massive problem with the Barry story. The second man at the counter, the one sitting on her other side, he never saw a Barry, never heard the name Barry. No other witnesses in the restaurant could corroborate the existence of this third man.
So we have one witness saying she left with a man named Barry and another witness sitting right there who says she was alone.
Exactly. It's a direct contradiction at a critical moment.
Right.
We don't know if Barry is a genuine lead or if he's the product of a faulty memory or a witness who maybe wanted to be more involved in the investigation.
So that's the afternoon of March 13th. That's the last time anyone claims to have seen her. Then, 5 days of silence until March 18th. Back to Canyon Creek Road, the discovery.
So we have a pair of joggers out for a run on this remote road.
Yeah.
They start seeing items, articles of clothing on the side of the road.
And this is one of the strangest details for me. It wasn't just a pile of clothes. Some of them were tied to tree branches.
It's a bizarre visual, like trail markers or a signal. You could imagine someone who survived a crash and climbed back up the embankment doing that to attract attention. Or you could imagine someone staging a scene doing it to make sure the wreck was found.
So the joggers see the clothes, they look over the edge of the embankment, and down in the trees they spot the top of the white Jeep. They call it in.
Police and search teams arrive.
Yeah.
They make their way down the treacherous slope to the vehicle. And what they find inside is just chaos.
The car had obviously rolled many, many times. It was crushed. But as they started to process the interior, they realized it looked like someone had been living in it.
What do you mean by that?
There were blankets and pillows that had been hung up over the inside of the windows.
Like makeshift curtains.
Exactly, like you would do to block out light or get some privacy. It suggests one of two things. Either the car was parked there and being used as a shelter before it crashed, or someone survived the crash and was trying to live in the wreckage for a time.
And the kitten, B.
Gone. They found a cat carrier and some cat food, but B was never found. But they found almost everything else. And this is the point where the robbery theory just completely evaporates.
Because of the valuables left inside.
Inside that wrecked Jeep, investigators found $2,500 in cash.
Just sitting there.
Just sitting there. Along with her jewelry, her passport, her checkbook, her driver's license, her guitar was in there, all her CDs.
If this was a carjacking or a robbery gone wrong, the perpetrator was terrible at their job.
Yeah.
You don't assault someone and then leave $2,500 in cash behind.
Absolutely not. The motive here was clearly not financial gain. Whatever happened, it wasn't about the money.
So we're left with this completely confounding scene. A wrecked car, a missing young woman, no obvious motive, and these strange details like the blankets over the windows.
And now we have to get into the science of it, the forensics of the crash itself, and how it led to this staged accident theory. This is where the entire case gets turned on its head.
Initially, the Washington State Patrol conducted a standard accident reconstruction. They looked at the tire tracks leading off the road, the impact marks on the trees, the physics of the fall. Their estimate was that the Jeep was traveling at about 40 miles per hour when it left the road.
40 miles per hour. That's not just rolling off the road. That's a high-speed catastrophic event, especially going down an embankment like that.
It's a major trauma event. The car didn't just slide down, it tumbled violently through the trees.
But the human body tells a story in a crash like that?
It always does. It's basic physics and biology. When you're inside a metal box that stops that suddenly, your body becomes a projectile. You hit the steering wheel, the windshield, the door. There's blood, there are bruises, there are broken bones.
And the seatbelts.
A seatbelt is designed with webbing that stretches under immense force to absorb the energy of an impact. If a person is thrown against it at 40 miles per hour, those fibers stretch and deform permanently. It's evidence.
And in Leah's Jeep, they found
Nothing. Zero. No blood. No skin cells or hair embedded in the spiderweb cracks of the windshield. And no discernible stretching on the seatbelt webbing.
which leaves only one possible conclusion.
No one was in the Jeep when it crashed. The car was empty when it went over that edge.
Which means someone had to have sent it over. But how? I mean, you can't just push a car and get it to 40 miles per hour on a dirt road. The engine had to be running.
And for 6 years, that was the big question. How do you make a car drive by itself? It wasn't until 2006, when the original detective on the case, Mark Joseph, retired, and a new team took a fresh look, that they found the answer.
They finally looked under the hood.
They popped the hood, and they found it. A single wire leading to the starter relay had been cut.
Okay, explain that for those of us who aren't mechanics. How does cutting one wire make a car accelerate on its own?
Normally, when you cut a wire, you break a circuit and something stops working. But this was very specific. By cutting this particular wire, you can bypass the car's safety systems. It allows the starter motor to be engaged in a way that provides continuous power, essentially forcing the car to accelerate without a foot ever touching the gas pedal.
So you perform this little mechanical trick, put the car in gear, and it just takes off.
It takes off, and it will keep accelerating until it either runs out of road or hits something that stops it. This was the smoking gun. It proved, with mechanical certainty, that the crash was deliberate. It was staged.
That's chilling. Someone stood on that dark road, rigged Leah's car, and then just watched it launch itself into the forest.
And their work left traces. They found a partial fingerprint under the hood near that cut wire. A print that did not belong to Leah.
And there was also DNA, right?
Yes. Male DNA was recovered from an article of Leah's clothing that was found at the crash scene.
Okay, so now we have a mystery fingerprint and unknown male DNA. Did they ever go back and compare that to the Barry witness, the man from the restaurant?
They did. Years later, they tracked him down again. They took his fingerprints for comparison.
And the result?
No match. The fingerprint from under the hood was not his. So whatever he saw or didn't see at that restaurant, he wasn't the person who rigged the car.
What are the DNA? Did they compare his DNA to the sample from the clothing?
That is one of the enduring mysteries of the case. Law enforcement has never publicly disclosed the results of that DNA comparison. We know the witness was officially cleared and is not considered a suspect, but we don't know why. We don't know if the DNA didn't match or if there was another reason. And Barry, the man he described, he remains a total ghost.
So the car was staged, but that still leaves the question of what happened to Leah herself. They had to search for her.
They did. In April of 2000, shortly after the Jeep was found, they launched a massive 2-week search of the entire area around the crash site. Dogs, helicopters with thermal imaging, teams on the ground.
And they used metal detectors.
They did. And this goes all the way back to her biography. That car accident in 1998.
The metal rod in her leg.
Exactly. It's a grim thought, but the reasoning was sound. If she'd have been killed and her body was hidden nearby, maybe buried in a shallow grave or covered with debris, the dogs might miss her after a few weeks. But a metal detector would get a strong, unmistakable hit on that titanium rod. It would scream.
And did they get any hits?
Not a single one.
Yeah.
They swept that whole area. Nothing. Which strongly suggests that wherever Leah is, she wasn't in the immediate vicinity of that crash site.
But the search of the car did turn up one more piece of evidence. Something small, but incredibly powerful. The FBI found it.
It was hidden, tucked away under one of the floor mats. It was a ring.
Her mother's engagement ring.
According to her sister and friends, Leah treasured that ring. It was her most important connection to her mother. She wore it constantly. She never took it off.
To find it hidden under a floor mat, that feels intentional. It doesn't feel like something that just fell off.
No. It feels like one of two things. Either she was in a state of duress and trying to hide it from someone protecting it, or she was intentionally leaving behind the last vestiges of her old life. But even then, why hide it? It's another detail that just doesn't quite fit any easy theory.
There was one other potential sighting, a tip that came in that gave the family a little bit of hope. The Everett sighting.
Right, this happened a few days after the Jeep was discovered. A man called the sheriff's office. He was frantic. He said his wife had just seen a woman matching Leah's description at a gas station in Everett, Washington.
And Everett is south of the crash site, closer to Seattle.
Correct. He said the woman seemed dazed, disoriented, and confused.
This brings up the theory of a fugue state. That maybe the trauma of whatever happened caused her to have a psychological break, to lose her memory and identity.
It's a possibility. Dissociative fugue is a recognized condition. But the problem was, the man on the phone panicked. He hung up before giving his name or his wife's name. They were never able to identify the caller or verify the sighting. It became another frustrating dead end.
So it's now been more than 2 decades. What's the status of the case today? What's being done?
The case has had periods in the spotlight. Unsolved Mysteries did a segment on it back in 2001. The show Disappeared covered it in 2011. But the most consistent and dedicated effort has come from a woman named Monica Kaysen, who runs the CUE Center for Missing Persons.
She's been a real driving force in keeping this case alive.
Absolutely. She's not just a passive advocate. On the 4th anniversary of Leah's disappearance, she organized a caravan. She and other volunteers physically retraced Leah's entire route, all the way from Durham to Bellingham.
Driving the whole way.
The whole way, stopping in towns, putting up flyers, talking to local media, just trying to shake something loose. It became an annual tradition for a while.
An incredible effort. But it hasn't produced the answer.
No, Leah Roberts remains a missing person. Her sister Cara and her brother Heath are still waiting for an answer that has never come.
It's just one of the most maddening puzzles. We know how the car crashed. The cut wire gives us the mechanics of the event. But we have no idea who did it or where Leah went.
It's a case built on contradictions. The note she left says, "I'm not suicidal." The cash in the car says, "This wasn't a robbery." The hidden ring suggests, "I'm in danger," and the wrecked car says, "I was staged."
And in the middle of all of it, the girl is just gone.
It's a terrible tragedy. A young woman who was searching for direction after so much loss, who went looking for answers in the great American wilderness, and the wilderness, it seems, just kept her.
And if there is someone out there who knows something about a man named Barry in Bellingham, about a white Jeep on a remote road in March of 2000, about a young woman who is just looking for a new start, someone knows who cut that wire, it's never too late to make that call. Thanks for listening.